This is Teleradio Marcelo with Sci Educator Catherine Alvarez from the MHP&HS Junior High School Science Department. Join us this amazing Tuesday morning for another hour of learning in Grade 7 Science. Hello and welcome learners. You are listening to Teleradio Marcelo, ang telearalan ng bawat Maluleño. Brought to you by MHP&HS Marcelo H. Del Pilar National High School. I am teacher Catherine A. Alvarez, your Sci educator for today. We're almost done with the third quarter. How was your physics journey so far? I hope you had a challenging yet meaningful learning. Last time you learned all about heat. Today we will be learning about electricity. We will try to answer what are the different types of charges and how can objects be charged. Our most essential learning competency is to describe the different types of charging processes. At the end of the broadcast, we should be able to identify the different types of charges and learn about the 3 different ways objects can be charged. Are you ready now to know more about electric charges? Let's start with a quick review of the past lesson. Okay, but first make sure that all learning materials and tools are handy. Have a pen and your science notebook ready for note-taking and for answering the exercises and assessments. Comment your answers down below and don't forget to include your section and the name of your science teacher for bonus points on your performance grade. Your comments are welcome. Remember, this is just recitation on air. Today's review will be with a little twist. Do you know what a rebus puzzle is? Important concepts from last week's lesson were turned into rebus puzzles. A rebus is a picture representation of a name, word, or phrase. Your task is to combine the symbols or representation to guess the puzzle. There will be 5 puzzles and I will give you 10 seconds to solve for each puzzle. It's quite tricky, so make sure to have your pen and notebook ready to write down the clues. Let's start. Number 1. It is described as a hotness or coldness of a body. Made up of 11 letters. What is it? Go. The correct answer is temperature. Did you get that right? Let's try the next one. Don't forget to write your comments on the comment box. Number 2. 4 letters. Thermal energy that is in transit. 10 seconds. Go. The correct answer is heat. That was an easy one, so now let's do the third one. A mode of heat transfer that takes place in fluids because their particles can move around. Heat is transferred by the particles themselves. Made up of 10 letters, your 10 seconds starts now. The right answer is convection. Very good if you got that right. Let's check if you can do this next one. A mode of heat transfer that takes place due to the vibrating and colliding particles of objects that are in contact. 10 seconds and it also has 10 letters. Go. Your 10 seconds is up. The correct answer is conduction. Alright, we're at the last puzzle. Rebus number 5 is 9 letters long. It is a mode of heat transfer that does not need particles nor a medium to take place. Can you guess the word? Five, four, three, two, and one. Did you get the right answer? It is radiation. How did you fare with this review? Did you get all 5 correct? Very well. I guess you really learned everything about heat from last week's lesson. Great job, everyone. Let's move on to today's lesson then. Last week was about heat energy, and you learned that it transfers through conduction, convection, and radiation. Now you will learn about another form of energy which you encounter every day. Yes, electricity. You probably are very familiar with this form of energy because this energy is important to operate your gadgets, appliances, and machines that make our lives easier. It's also the same energy responsible for lightnings and the motion of living organisms, which is made possible by electric signals sent between the cells. However, even if electricity is very familiar to us, many people are not aware that it is caused by the movement of charges. Electrical charges. What are electrical charges? To understand electrical charges better, let's talk about atoms first. We know from quarter 1 that all matter is made up of atoms, and atoms are further made up of smaller subparticles, the proton, the electron, and neutron. Objects are normally neutral or does not carry a charge. However, when an imbalance happens, the object becomes electrically charged. This means that objects usually carry the same number of protons or electrons on them. But it's important to know that the imbalance we're talking about is rather very small. Proportionally, that's just about 1 per 10 trillion difference, or 10 to the power of 12 out of a 10 to the power of 25. Now, electrons move relatively easily from one atom to another. When an atom gains an electron, it has more negative than positive charges. When it loses an electron, it has more positive than negative charges. This movement of electrons between atoms is what causes the imbalance and what we know as the electric charge. Neutrons are not involved in electric interactions, by the way, so we will only be talking about protons and electrons. Recall that protons are subatomic particles which are positively charged, and electrons are negatively charged. Again, when an atom gains an electron, it will have more electrons than protons. Then it will become negatively charged. When an atom loses an electron, it will have more protons than electrons, hence it will become positively charged. To put that simply, when an object loses an electron, it makes the object more positively charged. If it gains an electron, it makes the object more negatively charged. Positively or negatively charged atoms are called ions. Because like charges repel and unlike charges attract, ions can create attractive or repulsive forces called electric forces. When electric charges or charging happens, the moving charges produces electric energy or electricity. So now we know that electric charges or moving charges produce electricity, and the attraction or repulsion between charges creates electric forces. Let's review the attraction and repulsion again. Positive charge with another positive charge will attract or repel. What do you think? Comment your answers below. Correct. Since both are like charges, they will repel each other. The same is true for two like negative charges. However, if the charges are unlike, a positive and a negative charge, both will attract each other. Electric charge is usually represented by the symbol Q, but since this is not the standard unit, we use coulomb. Coulomb is the standard unit of charge set by the International System of Units. A coulomb is defined as a number of electrons passing through a current of 1 ampere per second. When charges move between objects, the total amount of charges remain constant. Like energy and momentum, electric charge is a conserved quantity. This means that the charge cannot be created nor destroyed, but it can be transferred between objects. Now that we know what electric charges are and its types, let's move on to the next question. What are the ways we can charge objects? There are three ways to charge objects. One is by friction, the next is by conduction, and the last one is by induction. Triboelectric charging is also known as charging by friction. This occurs when two different materials are rubbed against each other, causing a transfer of electrons. The material with the greater affinity for electrons becomes negatively charged, and the other material becomes positive. An example is when you rub a rubber balloon to your dry hair. When you do this, the electrons from your hair tend to transfer to the rubber balloon, giving the balloon a negative charge and your hair a positive charge. When you move or pull away the balloon, your hair sticks to the balloon because the positive charges are attracted to the negative charges on the rubber balloon. But how do we know whether an object will more likely gain or lose electrons? Enter the triboelectric series. This is a device that you can use to know whether a material will become negatively charged or positively charged after rubbing with another material in the series. The materials listed are arranged according to their ability to gain or lose electrons. The rules are quite simple. The materials found at the upper end or the plus sign of the sequence will most likely give or lose electrons and become positively charged. The materials found at the bottom end of the sequence or the minus sign will most likely gain or receive electrons and become negatively charged. To understand the triboelectric series more, let's try this activity. This activity is called positive or negative. Have your pen and notebooks ready to write down your answers. Create a table with 5 columns and 6 rows. Number the first column 1 to 5 beginning on the second row. I will give you 3 minutes to answer. We will do the first one first as a bonus. Using the triboelectric series, complete the information on the table. Determine which material will most likely lose or gain an electron when rubbed together. Then write if the material will become positively or negatively charged after losing or gaining the electron. Let us answer the first one, hair and cotton. Hair is found at the upper end while cotton is found at the bottom end of the series. This means that hair will most likely lose an electron when rubbed together with cotton, which will gain the electron. Cotton will become negatively charged and hair will become positively charged. Did you get that? Now let's see if you can do the next 4 pairings. You have 3 minutes and your timer starts now. Your time is up, pens down. The next slide will show the correct answers. Did you get all the questions right? How did you do in this exercise? Make sure to remember the rules so you can complete your learning activity sheets on your own. Let's pause for a break, and when we come back, we will discuss the other two ways to charge objects and do some more seat works to test your understanding. Good news, Delpilarians! Our online registration for the special program for science, technology, and engineering is extended until May 30, 2021. Schedule of registration is from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. For the schedule of interview, please wait for further announcements. Incoming grade 7 students must have an average grade of 85 or higher in math, science, and English, and an average grade of 83 in all other subjects. Aspiring applicants should also have no grades lower than 80 in any quarter and must have a general average of 85 and above based on the computed grades from the first to third quarter periods. For more information, please contact our focal persons, Ms. Marisa Flores and Ms. Jaylin Santos, through the numbers on the screen. Alright, we're back. You're still listening and tuned in to Teleradyo Marcelo, ang telearalan ng bawat Maloleño. And I'm Educator Catherine Alvarez. Hello to everyone, especially to my students from grade 7-5 DC Crisostomo, 7-6 JDC De Guzman, 7-8 MA Balite, and 7-9 BM Raimundo. Good morning to our principal, all MHP and HS teachers who are listening, most especially to my co-teachers and our OIC Science Department Head, Ma'am Mirna de la Cruz. Keep listening, and we're almost at the end of the broadcast. Another way to charge objects is by conduction. Charging by conduction is useful for charging metals and other conductors. This charging method involves the touching of a charged particle to a conductive material. This transfers the charges from the charged material to the conductor. Electrical conduction occurs when particles that are electrically charged move through some type of medium to produce electrical energy. The wires in your home conduct electricity and allow lights to come on when you flip the switch. When you turn on your computer or any other electric or battery-operated devices or appliances, electrical conduction is what makes them function. A conductor is a material that's good in transmitting energy and are made of materials which electrons can move through easily, such as gold, copper, and most other metals. Insulators, on the other hand, are materials that doesn't allow electrons to move easily. Usually, electric wires are made up of a conductor wrapped in an insulator like plastic to prevent flowing into other conductors such as your body for safety. The last way of charging objects is through induction. This involves a charged object that is brought close to a conductor but does not touch it. This is because when you place a charged object near another object, it can cause the nearby objects to become charged as well. For example, when you put a balloon that is negatively charged close to a wall, the balloon will repel other electrons in that part of the wall, pushing them away from the surface and creating a localized temporary positive charge. Sometimes you can get the balloon to stick to a wall or window because of this temporary charge. The separation of electric charges caused by an electric field is called an induction. Induction uses the same mechanism as polarization. Polarization occurs when a neutral object is placed near a charged object and charges within the neutral object are rearranged such that the charged object attracts opposite charges within the neutral. However, polarization is not a charging process. When an object becomes polarized, there's simply a redistribution of the centers of positive and negative charges within the object. Induction charging in real life is used in contactless charging of smartphones, wireless charging bays of electric cars, and even wireless charging of everyday home appliances. That is all for our discussion for today. Make sure to do your independent learning and complete your learning activity sheets. Explore charging processes further by visiting the website or link flashed on the screen. To summarize, atoms can lose or gain electrons. Losing or gaining electrons make them charged. Law of conservation of charge says that charges cannot be created nor destroyed, but can be transferred from one material to another. Positively charged are charge of materials when losing electrons. Negatively charged are charge of material when gaining electrons. Electricity is energy produced by moving charges. Electrical force is the force of attraction or repulsion between charges. Attraction is an act of charges moving toward each other. Unlike charges attract. Repulsion is the act of charges moving away from each other, and like charges repel. Charging by friction is charging which involves two different materials rubbing against each other. Triboelectric series is a device used to determine the charges of the materials when rubbed together. Conduction charging is charging which involves the contact of a charged object to a neutral object. Induction charging is charging without actual contact to any other charged object. Finally, we will do a knowledge check to see if we really learned something from what we have discussed today. Get your pen and notebooks ready, number it 1 to 5, and write down only the letters of your correct answers. You can also write your answers on the comment box below with your name, grade, and section. Number 1. What will happen when two like charges are brought together? A. Repel each other. B. Attract each other. C. Neutralize each other. Or D. Have no effect on each other. Number 2. A material can become positively charged by A. Gaining protons. B. Gaining electrons. C. Losing protons. Or D. Losing electrons. Number 3. Two unlike charges, blank. A. Attract each other. B. Repel each other. C. Neutralize each other. D. Have no effect on each other. Number 4. If you comb your hair and the comb becomes positively charged, your hair becomes blank. A. Positively charged. B. Negatively charged. C. Uncharged. D. Either positive or negative. Number 5. Which is not a charging process? A. By friction. B. By conduction. C. By polarization. Or D. By induction. Here are the correct answers. Number 1. A. When two like charges are brought together, they will repel each other. Number 2. D. A material can become positively charged by losing electrons. Number 3. A. Two unlike charges will attract each other. Number 4. Your hair becomes negatively charged because the comb became positively charged. Number 5. C. Polarization is not a charging process. If you got all correct, great job. You now know the types of charges and the different ways of charging objects. For your homework, read on the first lesson for the 4th quarter and answer the following questions. Number 1. Where is the Philippines located? Find out the exact coordinates. Number 2. Why is the Philippines called an archipelago? Number 3. What are the land masses and bodies of water surrounding our country? That's all the time we have for now. I hope you had an amazing time learning with me today. Next week, you will learn more new things about Earth and space with Wamlu Kakanding. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Teleradio Marcelo on Facebook and YouTube. Let me cap this quarter with this quote. Think like a proton and always stay positive. So keep learning and stay curious, Telpilarians. Again, this is your Sci educator, Catherine A. Alvarez, and this is Teleradio Marcelo, ang telearalan ng bawat Malolenyo. Thank you for tuning in and see you again next week.
Makinig, na sa teleradyo. Makinig, manood na sa teleradyo. Teleradyo, Teleradyo Marcelo. Sa gitna ng mapanubok na panahon, magkahatid sa kaakibat ay diskusyon. Sama-sama tayo, kahit magkalayo. Sa programang ito, tiyak ang pagkatuto. Teleradyo, Teleradyo Marcelo. Teleradyo, Teleradyo Marcelo. Teleradyo, Teleradyo Marcelo.